We're bringing healthy back. Them other bros don't know about the facts.
Hello, and welcome to the Magic of Metabolic Health podcast, where optimized metabolic health is our goal, and we are here to get you there. My name is Amelia Wood, and I am a food first personal trainer and metabolic health coach.
And my name is Dr. Funmmy, board certified internal medicine physician specializing in metabolic health.
Yes.
Good to see you, Amelia. I'm so happy that we'll be able to get together and talk about it now that we're now into 2025. Welcome.
Yes, definitely. So, here at the Magic of Metabolic Health podcast, we are building a village that encompasses every part of who you are. We release guilt and shame, big no-nos, right? We're trying to get rid of all that stuff. We're releasing guilt and shame and the quest for perfection, and we show you how self-efficacy and your why are crucial tools in sustainable behavior change and optimizing your metabolic health.
All right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, today is episode 7, and it's that time of year where it seems that everyone and their mom is feeling the urge or the pressure to make changes in their lives. And people have, like, varying reasons for that change. Oftentimes, it's just the new year brings like health and wellness into like a very sharp focus, but should it?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah. This episode, I think, is going to be pretty different. There are a lot of people talking about New Year's goals and things like that, talking about SMART goals or stages of behavior change or whatever is trending, right? However, I think we decided that we're going to focus on just 2 things today, which have multiple facets, but really it's about nature and nurture.
All right.
So before our listeners and viewers go and like grab a pile of sticky notes and write down all your goals and cover your bathroom mirror with them, just sit back, grab a cup of tea, relax, and enjoy this episode.
That's right. So when we talk about nature, if you really look at humanity through like the lens of like climate induced lens, it's the time of year, this time of year is not really natural for like radical shifting and upheaval. Because if you think about it, for the northern hemisphere in general, where we're located, we're like dead, we're like literally dead in the middle of winter. And some of us are neck deep in snow or rain or fires if you're living in California. If you're further south, we might be tolerating like maybe moderately like 55 degrees or so with, maybe slight overcast. So it's not necessarily like the most booming, best weather in the world, for you to be able to do things. Whether you love the season or you hate the season, consider it that like nature really just wants you to stay inside, stay warm, get rest, get ready for the spring, hibernate. The crops are frozen, the soil is hardened, and like animals are hibernating, and we're animals too, right?
We are. So before you freak out about all the things you think you might have to do, so to speak, we want you to consider this time of year as a gift. So maybe you don't need a giant reset. Maybe you need a giant rest. Or maybe your routine needs some minor adjustments and not a complete overhaul. And don't get me wrong, right? Like, I'm not suggesting go sit around and binge eat and watch shows all winter long. That's not what we're saying.
Not that that's a bad thing, no, a little bit.
I mean, hey, I had a long December of work back to back, and now this January, I've been sleeping in. I've been sleeping a lot, and that's good, right?
Cool about that. Rest is blessed, ma'am. Rest is blessed. There's nothing like the like enjoying the fruits of your labor by resting, even if it is for a whole month. I don't knock it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like we said, we're going to talk about nature and nurture. So, nurture is our next thing. How
Mm,
can you or us, how can we honor or nurture our health needs with an approach that's a little bit less like Mad Max vibes and more Mother Nature vibes instead?
sure. We can talk about it today.
Yeah,
Some of the things that we're going to cover today include what is really going good for you in your life, and then also like what are the healthy habits and the routines that are working for you, and then like how can you build on what's already benefiting you for the most part. And with that, it's the really hot topic of top signs that your goal setting truly suck. As in, we need to get into that also because you may think that what's working for you is working. Meanwhile, is it really even working for you? So we'll break that down into our short and juicy list of the things that we want to dive into. But let's dive into our main topic, as always, sustainable behavior change for the long term and optimizing your metabolic health.
exactly. Yeah, so Fumi, you asked that question. What
Oh my
is
God.
already going good for you in your life? Please tell us. Tell me.
I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna hold y'all. I got a great life. I got some great stuff going on. But this is like after like a decade of like trying and failing at different things. I'm always like trying and if someone tells me something's working for them, I want to see if it's gonna work for me. So I'm never afraid to kind of like try it and see if it works. And if I find that it's working, that I'll do it, then I'll incorporate it into my life. And if it's not, then I'll try it and say, okay, it's not really for me. I'll just like keep that in the shelf somewhere. Maybe it might work for somebody else. So the things that are working for me right now is three things. Like first and foremost is sleep. I am someone that I have abused my sleep like times without number, being a resident in medical school, just being like a true insomniac sometimes, just not having like a sort of delayed sleep cycle. I have not been very good with my sleep. But once I prioritized my sleep and made sure that my sleep is the best sleep that I can get, the rest of my day becomes like absolutely mwah. Um, Second thing I do is my skincare. As you can see,
I saw that glow today. As soon as you got online, I was like,
I did not mess. I did not.
what?
I'm not even supposed to like mention any like products because I'm not getting any funding for them. This is not a paid advertisement. But when I tell you my skincare routine is A1, it is A1. And so I don't mess up on my skincare. I do it every day and I do it with gusto because I know that when my skin looks good, I feel good. It makes I sometimes I wear makeup, sometimes I won't wear makeup, and my skin just looks like it's illuminating, like it's literally just emanating light. That is how I want my skin to look. And then last is magnesium. I know I could
Mm.
do other things in my life as far as diet and everything like that, but I do not go a single day on this planet without ingesting magnesium.
What kind of magnesium? Because there's like 20,000 kinds.
There are 20,000 times, but the ones that work best for me is magnesium glycinate. And it goes back to the first point that it helps me with my sleep. And so the moment I got my magnesium in me, especially being on the keto diet, it just keeps me regular. It keeps my skin healthy. It keeps my sleep healthy. It keeps my bones healthy. It keeps my muscles healthy. As a person who is an avid gymmer, I don't skip out on my magnesium. I really don't. And that's
Gotcha.
me. What works with you?
Well, right now I would say sleep. I stopped setting my alarm for a few days in a row, and
Ooh,
it made me a little nervous because, of course, my go mind was like, well, you should get up by X time because you should be doing this and probably doing that.
that's so annoying.
And then
That's
this week,
that's
I threw it out the window this week. I'm like, you know what? I'll wake up when my body wants to wake up.
Ooh, go ahead. Tell your body who's boss. You tell your body who's boss.
Yeah, so I mean, granted, I have the privilege to do that right now because I am
That's
self employed.
that is that part.
And
That's very
Uh,
important.
half of my career, because I own two businesses, half of my career is very low season right now. I just finished my peak season.
Okay,
So
great.
I've been taking advantage of catching up on sleep. I've also been going outside as much as possible, especially to
Mm,
places that have snow.
okay,
Because for
right.
me, I like all four seasons.
Okay.
And here in the Seattle area, we don't exactly have four seasons, at least down at the sea level. So
Mm,
I've been
rain
going to the mountains.
which mountains? Which ones?
Well, I went to Snoqualmie. I went to, let's see, it's not the Rockies, it's the Cascades.
Okay.
Um, what's it called? The, not Wenatchee, but Leavenworth. There's some beautiful trails over in Leavenworth. And then I think this weekend I'm going to be going to Mount Baker possibly.
All right. So
So,
keep it in the outside, getting yourself some sunshine, fresh air, getting yourself the exercise, running through these trails. This sounds wonderful. This sounds like a fantastic routine, honestly. I
yeah.
love that.
So I've also been working on uh, the age old abundance versus scarcity mindset.
Oh, let's talk about it because I love that. This is my that's my bread and butter. I love that. Come on.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about it a lot over the years, and you actually, Funmmy, are a very good reminder when I am maybe struggling or kind of going through it. I think, well, what would Funmmy do? Or what would Funmmy say? Because hands down, when we focus on abundance of affirming things, right? Affirming dynamics in our life,
Mhm,
affirming people, it makes things easier, right? It makes things a little bit less
mhm,
scary or scarcity. So
mhm.
one of the things that I wanted to mention, since we're going to be talking about goals and whether or not your goals suck,
Okay,
is the process, right? And so before we get into the top signs that your goal setting sucks, I wanted to
sure.
mention something about dopamine. And I've
Hmm.
been listening to a lot of different folks, podcasts, shows about dopamine and its relationship with food and and what's it called? Just things that come at you, like outside environmental impacts.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so I was listening to another podcast the other day. Actually, our last episode interviewed Amy Gallo, the fabulous nutritionist. And I listened to one of her episodes recently, and she was talking about how, in our process of goal setting, it's really important to acknowledge every little success or every little dopamine hit.
Love it. Yes. Okay. I have a story for you. I have something great for you.
Okay,
Absolutely. It's very
cool.
important. So check this out. You see, your mind works on a negative feedback loop. When bad things happen, we remember it and like, oh, super scary. So sometimes we sort of like shortchange ourselves when little positive things happen. It's like, oh yeah, that's nothing. It's something. And it's something that's worthy of celebration. In addition, there is a way to trick your mind out of the negative feedback loop by celebrating your future wins. It is just as important to celebrate your little wins as your perceived wins, as your future wins, as the wins that you want. And so there's no such thing as, oh, I woke up this morning and I didn't fall back to sleep and hit my snooze. Celebrate that. And I got a C plus instead of C minus. Celebrate that. Every time you celebrate that, you release a bit of dopamine in your brain. You're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is nice. Oh, okay, I can keep doing this. And then suddenly your C minus go to a C plus. The C plus goes to a B minus. And the B minus goes to a B plus. And suddenly you're an A plus plus student. Why? Because you celebrated that little win incrementally, that little baby steps, those little, oh, the every droplet makes an ocean. Yeah, well, yeah, these are the
Mm-hmm.
things, and there's no things that is too small to celebrate. And how you celebrate it, it's up to you, but it is worthy of celebration. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So props to you, Amy. You're always inspiring. And I definitely want to have you on the show again because we barely scratched the surface when we were talking. So just wanted to mention that. So let's get to the juicy stuff.
So top sign that your goal setting sucks. What's a good way of feeling like this? Well, the top signs that your goal setting sucks is that you're already dreading the start of it. And the dreading could come from like three different dynamics. The first one may be that you feel pressured to even set a goal. And by pressure, I don't mean like someone's like standing over you, but like you may feel pressure because your friends, your family, society is telling you that you need to have a goal. Oh, it's New Year's Eve. What's your New Year's resolution? And you don't even really know if you have like a New Year's resolution. So you're like, okay, I gotta have a New Year's resolution, or else, or else I suck as a person. And then you make one, and then you dread doing it because you didn't even want to do it in the first place. So that's an easy one. That's one reason why you might dread doing your goals. Second one may be that you're not setting the right type of goal. Maybe you're someone that you need to focus on your weight or your health or your water intake or your finances, and then you set a goal for something else completely. So you're actually procrastinating on the real thing that you're supposed to be doing, and because of that you're dreading doing that goal because you know that what you're supposed to be focusing your real attention on is something else completely different. There's that. The third thing is something that we just talked about earlier, which is that it's about your ability to focus on your smaller wins and your future wins. So if you have like a negative connotation about your goal in general, oh, I set myself a goal that an impossible goal, a goal that is stupid, that you feel is stupid. Of course, you're not going to want to do the goal because you've already
Mm.
determined that it's a stupid goal. You're not going to meet the goal. It's you already put all this negative language and negative narrative on the goal. You've built yourself something that you can't even do. And so of course you're gonna dread doing the goal because you're like, okay, I've set myself up for failure. Now let me set off on my failure. Yeah, you're not gonna it's gonna your goal setting sucks. Yes, yes. And so that right there is just like one, like those are the dynamics. And so the way to counteract those three dynamics is it's actually very easy. The first one is, you set a goal outside societies, so you need to evaluate your why. And Amelia, you are the queen of evaluating your why. Tell me why is it important to evaluate your why?
Exactly. So I use this in my work with clients, and it is part of my 4-step strategy that I use in coaching. And it's actually the first step is finding your why. And I think of your why. I talk about this with all my clients, and I think I talked about it with Dr. Tony Hampton recently as well. Think of your why as your ride or die bestie. So
Hmm.
let me explain. So your ride or die bestie is always there for you when you need them, especially when you have a project or you take a risk or something that you need support with. They are there, thick or thin, right?
Hmm.
They know you well, and they probably keep you in check when you slip up, whether it's a goal or a behavior or something like that. Ooh, can you hear that? Okay, it's just me. Sorry. So there's a whistle in my ear.
Hmm.
So
I hear.
you're ride or die. Sorry. So they know you well, and they keep you in check when you slip up, and so they're basically there no matter what you do. Like, you can mess up, you can maybe forget about a date you had with them, but they'll forgive you because they love you. They're your ride or die. So
That's
in the
right.
context of behavior change,
Hmm.
your why has to be the same. It has to be nearly unbreakable. So
Ooh.
it can't just be a temporary why. Then it's not your ride or die, right? Your ride or die is hopefully forever your bestie. right? And so maybe your why for what you're doing as far as a goal could be for a long-term relationship with someone like your grandkids.
Okay.
If you have grandkids and you want to watch them grow up and graduate high school and go off to college, that's a
Hmm.
long-term, deep-rooted why.
Okay.
Or, maybe it's another kind of long-term why where you are currently on no prescription medication and you want to stay that way. So
Hmm.
you set a goal that says, okay, if I do this, this is going to keep me healthier longer and therefore away from prescription medications.
That's beautiful.
And then there's also like pretty simple stuff like you're just tired of being tired all the time. And maybe you just want to be happy and like enjoy life, you know?
That that's
So,
just as a reason
yeah.
as any, honestly. I've got patients that are just like that. They're like, I'm tired of being tired. And I decided to finally see a doctor. It's been 30 years. And I say, you know what? You're welcome. It's never too late. You know, that's fantastic. Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Mm,
So that was the one tip on how to address this dynamic of dreading your goal. And
okay.
then and so it's kind of relative to what I just said, but what you want or need in your goal has to inspire you in some way,
Right.
right? So if it's about the grandkids, clearly your grandkids inspire you. And it doesn't mean that this process is necessarily always going to be easy, but that inspiration should keep you afloat amongst, obstacles and hard times you might face. And so the last one I think is a combination. It's a modification rule I have. I don't use moderation because we've talked about that before. It's too subjective.
Yeah.
Modification of your process so it matches your best self.
All
And
right.
I think Dr. Tony talked about this a couple episodes back where he wants to do what's best for Tony.
That's right.
Because
Ooh, I remember that
remember
episode.
that?
So good. That was actually so good. Yes.
Yeah, so
You gotta
so
do
your
what's best for
process,
you. You got
you
to.
know what works. You know what works, and you also don't know,
Mhm.
and you also know what doesn't work. So why are you setting goals that don't work? It doesn't mean you can't try again for the same
Okay.
goal, but the process has to change.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
there's this kind of awareness of balance. Like, is this change that I'm seeking a healthy challenge? Or is it
Hmm.
just like completely unrealistic and it's just going to overwhelm you and cause you dread?
That's that's probably why they're dreading just even starting. So I think that's fair. I think what you're saying is fair, which is about thinking of goals realistic and unrealistically. I think that's fair, honestly. Um, so moving on to the second reason why your goal setting might suck is that you maybe have set the same goal many times, many times in the past. You gave up on it, and now you're attempting to set the same goal yet again and do it in the same way yet again. um, Amelia, what is the definition of insanity?
Oh, I'm very familiar with this actually, firsthand experience. I believe it's doing something over and over again and expecting the different result. Yeah,
Excellent.
that's
So,
insanity.
so that's what that is essentially. It's insanity. So you've once again, and it goes back to the first point, you've once again set up a goal that has not happened to you in the past, and you've tried to do it exactly in the same way, and you've set yourself up for failure. So the way to address that dynamic is by creating a completely different goal, one that is more manageable, more realistic, and more you. And by you, it addresses once again your why. It has to be specific to you. And so the I know about setting a goal and doing it and doing it and doing it and failing it and failing it and failing at it. And so you have to pivot. And the way you pivot is saying, okay, let's say you want to lose 100 pounds. Instead, and you tried this diet and you tried that diet and you tried, you've tried everything. You're like, I'm doing it exactly the same way and it's not working. Pivot. I want to lose weight by maybe like drinking more water or whatever the case may be, or getting healthier. Instead of doing all these fad diets, you said, okay, I'm not going to do it the diet way. I'm going to get into the gym. As in, so you can't just redo the same thing all over and over and over again. As in, it just, I don't even know what I'm saying now. All I'm saying that it's the same darn thing. And so it's not going to work. So that's the second dynamic of why your goal setting sucks. And girl, I think we should just cut that out because I'm just frustrated just thinking about that. I just frustrated just thinking because it's crazy because I know what it is, but at the same time, it's like when you believe in yourself so much or you want that thing so much, you just say, okay, maybe it's the 97th try. The 97th time is the try, and it's not going to be the 97th try. You got to pivot and do something else different. The third
Yeah.
reason why, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say you mentioned manageable and more realistic. Some of those
Yes.
are included in SMART goals, which I'm not going to break down here, but I'll put a link in the show notes about SMART goals because they can be helpful. We
Okay.
just don't want to focus on them here.
Yeah.
However, one thing you mentioned, for example, like if somebody wants to lose 100 pounds, that's a big goal. What if you've tried that before and it didn't work? So what if we just try and lose 5 pounds?
That's in the next point. So that's the next point. And the next
Right?
point of goal setting stuff is that you have unrealistic expectations. Very unrealistic. Let's say that you weigh 400 pounds and you want to get to a healthy BMI for your age and your height, which is maybe 180. Let's just say example. So your now goal is that, okay, you're 400. I needed to use 220 pounds, but I want to lose it by in a month. Completely unrealistic, completely unrealistic and unhealthy. When you lose that kind of weight in such a rapid time, your body has already adapted for being that heavier weight for so long. And so when you lose that kind of weight just that rapidly and quite dangerously, it's actually to your detriment. It has to be manageable, realistic, steady progress. It takes work in order for your goals to actually happen. And so a more realistic goal for someone like that would be say, I would like to lose 10% of my body fat by the end of maybe 6 months, or I want to lose 100 pounds in 1 year, so I'm going to lose 10 pounds a month, which is even still very aggressive. So it has to be a timeline that makes sense. It has to be something realistic. I want to be a billionaire. There's only 2,000 billionaires on the planet. Can you do it? Maybe. Possible. Is it probable? Also, it's improbable, but it's not impossible. As in, and those people are, and so Nigerian people, I'm always going to bring the Nigerianness back to it because I got to. My mother, if I wanted to do something and it seemed like an impossible task, my mother would say, the people who did it, do they have two heads? And I said, no, they have the same head that I have. Do they have more time than you? No, they have the same 24 hours in the day as me. So that means it's possible. So all things are possible if you have the right systems in place. But you also have to do things in a systematic way, bit by bit, step by step, in order for you to get there. And then one day you just turn around and you've already done it, but not by saying, okay, I got to get it by tomorrow. Come on, be a little bit realistic, a little bit realistic, a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, and as you always say too, Fumi, is give yourself some grace
Ay, ay, ay.
because self-inducing more stress on our process is not going to help. And life is life. Life happens. So give yourself some grace. And similar to earlier, again, we're going to kind of be a broken record in a few of these points. Be sure you are aware of a healthy challenge that you look forward to. Okay?
Mm,
Not an insanity one. And be realistic. Like if you're constantly setting unrealistic goals and then you set unrealistic actions to get to that goal, you're ultimately going to be overwhelmed and probably full of dread at some point, and you're going to give up. So I think we've talked about this before also is, you know, a healthy challenge can cause and probably should cause discomfort. But how much
Mm,
discomfort are we willing to be in? I
sure.
mean, there are coaches out there that are like discomfort coaches, and you can learn from them on how to embrace discomfort in your life if you're constantly just trying to stay in your bubble of comfort.
Well,
So
we should
there's,
like on. I would love to talk to somebody like that about pushing
yeah,
past discomfort. I said that would be excellent. Let's look and let's put a pin in that. I want to see
yeah,
that in the future for sure.
yeah. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to address with the unrealistic expectations for change or unrealistic goals.
Sure.
So the 80-20 rule, a lot of people talk about when they talk about food, for example, like if you eat 80% of the time your target food combinations, and then 20% of the time maybe not so great, you're
Okay. Sure.
still like way better off, right? But my
Sure.
problem with the 80-20 rule is it's also subjective, like when you say everything in moderation.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I actually did some math. Not a mathematician, but I did math.
You hate
So,
math. You
for
hate math.
example, I know, watch. Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, doctor. So, here we can put some concreteness to this 80-20. If
All
you
right.
eat 3 times a day, okay?
Mm-hmm.
7 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
that equals 21 times you eat food in a
Okay.
week, right?
Sure.
And that's any food. And that doesn't include like unadulterated drinks like water, black coffee, unsweetened tea, things like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay, so say your target is to eat sugar free for 80% of those 21 times.
All
So
right.
21 times 80% is 16.8, rounded up to 17.
All
So
right.
if you want to be very specific in your target, you would want 17 out of the 21 times every time you eat in a week to be sugar free.
Okay.
To me, and to some of my actually one particular client I have who's awesome, I know that they benefit from this kind of math because they want specificity. They don't
Okay.
want generic, general, like, yeah, 82%, whatever that is to you. They
Okay.
need specificity. And so for me, if I wanted to target that 17 out of 21 times a week, that's easy because I know that I eat 3 times a day. That's just like very common. And I mean I do. I have one meal, a very small snack if I need one, and then another meal. And
Okay.
snacks count for when you eat. So you can simplify it in that way. If you want to go by the 80-20 rule, it's 17 out of 21 times a week that you're eating. Just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Way to do the
One
math, girl.
one little mathematical strategy from the personal trainer, health coach person.
Okay. I
So,
need one. No, as in honestly, I like that. I like getting more specific with your goals. I like having those kind of like SMART goals where it is tailored to you. There's nothing like knowing that something is for you when it literally reflects you. So I like that. I actually really like that a lot.
yeah,
The you're
go
fine.
ahead.
The last point that I wanted to make was that the last reason why your goal setting might suck is you hate the word goal. Let's be honest. We're living in a world where everybody's got a wish list, a goal list, a New Year's resolution, hashtag goals, BFF goals, couple goals. There's goals everywhere, and this idea of goals is the understanding that what you're doing right now sucks, and you're trying to get to a place that is better. And so it already puts you like in a negatively connotational way that's like, oh man, life sucks and my life sucks and what I'm doing sucks and so when you think of a goal, you're like, oh, it's only further emphasizing that what I'm doing is not great. And so you hate the word goal. And I think it's important to think about why that word rubs you the wrong way. Because goals could be not necessarily getting better. You could have a goal to be a problem. You could have a goal to be a nuisance, a menace. Your goal might be to get into your villain era or your villain arc. It does not necessarily mean that good stuff is happening, or and that doesn't it doesn't have to necessarily mean that bad stuff is happening and you're trying to get to a better place. Your goal might to be just to be able to cut people off. It's a lot, let people stop talking over you,
Mm.
to ask for a raise, or to tell Brenda from accounting what you really think about her. You can, your goal could be absolutely anything. Don't let anybody shortchange you on what your goals could be. And if nothing else, I really believe in you. I want you to hit those goals. And so in order for you to hit those goals, you got to get away from the shaming of the word goal by itself. Like, this is supposed to be a powerful thing. And language is a powerful thing. And so you got to like what you're saying. You got to like what you want to do. You got to like your goals. And you should use it. Yes, completely use it to your advantage.
Yeah, and I have some direct experience myself
Oh,
about this word. And so I came up with a few short synonyms for goals that I think are equivalent and perhaps more effective for certain individuals to use. Real
ooh, let's
quick.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Rapid
So we
fire.
have aim,
Ooh,
AIM, the aim of something,
mm-hmm.
objective,
Hmm. Profession.
desire,
Ooh, such seductive.
need, intention,
Oh, I like that. How very intentional of your intention.
plan,
Oh,
purpose.
purpose is good. Yes.
Okay, I'm just saying there are a lot of different people out there. So we got
Everyone's got.
plan, purpose, target, which I used earlier.
I think guys are gonna like Target. The idea of, like, like it's almost like a game. So it's like, okay, like a goal.
Mm-hmm. Choice. What's your choice? What do you
Oh,
choose to
I like
do?
choices. People love choices.
And then one that's a little bit far out there but fun, the Holy Grail.
I like this one. It's like
I knew
the
you would.
dun, 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 dun. I actually like it.
And that kind of reminds me of the abundance mindset. Like, why are you setting goals that are half-ass of what you really want in life? Every goal you set should be the Holy Grail, like exactly what you want for yourself, inspiring, something you look forward to working on every day. And again, not seeking perfection, but the Holy Grail is the Holy Grail. Like, let's sink into that. Let's sink into the abundance mindset. Let's sink into the possibilities, right? Because I truly believe, finally, at this age in my life, that anything is possible. Anything.
Oh, anything?
I've decided. I've decided anything is possible and nothing is impossible.
Oh, when did we come? What happened? What? Tell us what happened.
Well, it's multifaceted and I can't get into it right now. Maybe we can have an episode about it. But
Okay.
I've heard this phrase from several people in my life. I've heard it in movies, I've heard it in storybooks, right? Anything is possible. If someone can heal from some devastating disease, I mean, we could throw out Joe Dispenza, for example. He didn't necessarily have a disease, but he had an injury, and he was pretty much told that he would never walk again, and definitely not run or bicycle again. And now look at him. So there are plenty of examples of the impossible becoming possible. And I think today, talking about these goals or targets or objectives, whether it's because of the new year or because we're just tired of being tired and we want something refreshing in our lives,
Mhm.
the biggest takeaways for me is avoid dread, right?
Okay.
And instead seek inspiration, set a
Mhm.
goal that inspires you. And I think we briefly touched on this earlier, but you know, if you're really struggling, if you don't like if you like run screaming in the other direction when it comes to goal setting, objectives, whatever, maybe you need to go to therapy. Have you
Yeah.
thought about that?
Have you thought about? Let me tell
Or
you something.
maybe you're go ahead.
I love that. People are so open to going to therapy now. There's like a whole generation that going to therapy was like this hush hush thing, and like it meant that something was wrong with you. Meanwhile, you literally needed therapy. You needed to talk it out with a licensed medical professional and figure out what is it that happened in the past, or what kind of cognitive reasoning that causes you to think the way you think, and how to untangle that. Like, you just need a
Mhm.
licensed medical or mental health practitioner to help you sort that out. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I love that for you, honestly. Whoever it is, if you're listening to this and you've decided, do I need therapy? Yes, maybe you do. And that's
Mm.
okay. That's beautiful. Love that.
Yeah.
22 a year. Come on.
So,
Um,
yeah, I guess I just kind of jumped into the takeaways and summarizing what we went through because
number one.
I was on
But
a roll. But you know, the four signs that we went through, we offered solutions. We offered quick tips. So the first one was avoid dread and
yeah,
embrace inspiration. You know, determining a healthy challenge versus actions or goals that just plain overwhelm you.
sure.
Number two, the sorry. Number two, the you've set the same goal many times in the past. Now you're attempting to do it again, right? So we're saying
Different. Do
respond
something a
to
little
that differently.
different.
Yeah,
Change it up. Complete.
consider a
A complete.
whole different target, whole different intention, including unique steps that you have not tried before.
Right? And you may inadvertently get to your original goal by trying out something different. You may have, like I said, I think I used an example earlier. You may have tried to lose weight, but instead you tried something else and you inadvertently lose weight in the new goal. And so there's lots of blessings in that. There's lots of little pockets of like, oh, wow, this is what I was doing all along that, prevented me from actually getting to my original goal. And then you suddenly remember, oh, wow, I finally got to that somehow, somehow. I love that somehow, somehow, I took the shortcut and actually got to where I was supposed to be in the word ultimate. In fact, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
The third the third takeaway, which was yours, which is knowing your why. Knowing your why is so important because people are just out here living. They're out here living, not they're just not experiencing life. They're just living. They're just going through the motions, and they don't know why. They don't know why they are getting up in the morning. They have a lack of purpose, a lack of sense of self. Don't even know. You're just going through the motions. Not knowing why is so tough. It's completely detrimental to your actual goal in life, whatever that may be. So knowing your why is so important. It's the penultimate, if we're going to get to the points, the penultimate point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the last one, number four, again, give yourself some grace. If you hate goal setting, then don't set a goal. Do something else. Make a
Set a
different choice.
set a
Set a
plan. Oh,
plan.
no, 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 I do it. I don't have a budget. I have a spend plan. For
Actually,
real.
I've heard that before, and I started using that self talk as well, where it's like instead of saying I can't afford it,
Hmm.
I say, well, I'm saving my money for this, or I'm focusing on spending my money in this area of my life instead of an $8 latte every day or whatever. You
That's
know?
that's always the example, and that example is like killing this generation. I will be like, if there's something I want to buy, and I really do think that there's nothing in this world that I can't have, just like you. As I believe there's no such thing as impossible. So I said to myself, okay, I would like this thing, and I will get it, perhaps not today, maybe in 3 months' time. Let me see where I'm at. So I have not told myself no. My brain has not heard no. It just means that I will get it. So I've actually given myself the yes, right? And I've given myself the grace to be able to get it at another day. I don't budget because budget is like, oh, I have limited resources and I can only do this. No, 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 no. This is a spend plan. And the spend plan is I'm spending on this today and maybe that tomorrow. And it completely changes how I view things in the grander scheme of things because I'm like, oh yeah, that means that means there were no no's. And if there's no no's, then everything is a yes. Then I'm a yes woman, and you're a yes woman, and we're yes women.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope that this episode is helping people feel hopeful and
Sure.
inspired because life is hard. And we're not here to oversimplify it and just be like, "Oh, come on, get with the program. It's so easy to do all the things." We understand it's not
Exactly.
easy, and I think that there are so many nuances to living, to growth, to change. And one of the things I kind of wanted to add on as we're closing down for the day is do an inventory, possibly, like we said in the beginning, of what's working, what's
Hmm.
already working, and count that as a list of efficacy, of how you can be self efficacious. How do you say self
That's my
efficacious?
huh? What's happening?
Self efficacious.
At the
Basic,
Yeah,
basically, make a list of what's working so you can see your successes and acknowledge them.
and
And then,
always with them, always.
yeah, and then also, instead of like this radical transformation, also going back to nature and nurture, the the nature is you. You are nature. We are nature. We're connected to nature. We come from nature. So what is nature telling you? Start to observe it. Wherever you are on the planet, if you're in the northern hemisphere, definitely pay attention to how nature is operating and functioning right now. And I feel like something that I just learned recently was uh, this kind of awareness of reducing symptoms in wintertime. Like, you see a tree and it doesn't have leaves on it. It doesn't have leaves on it for lots of reasons. But one reason is because it's preserving its energy for a
Hmm.
time when the sun is stronger and more consistent so the leaves can grow. It doesn't need leaves right now. So, in a way, it's reducing potential symptoms for a target in the spring.
Oh
Target in the
wow.
spring is
That's very
to
yeah.
sprout, bloom, blossom new leaves. And so consider that for yourself. I consider it for myself as well. It's like, if stuff isn't going right, if there are certain things that I want to change, like I get a stomach ache every time I eat, it's just a little twinge of a stomach ache. What is one thing I could do to reduce that symptom? Maybe I need to cut out one food that I think maybe is contributing to that. Or maybe I need to, I don't know, do an elimination diet if I'm into that sort of thing.
I was gonna say that sounds like that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I just wanted to add that because it kind of came to me, and I wanted to circle back to the nature and the nurture, since we do acknowledge that a lot of us are in the dead of winter right now and we all want to hibernate to a certain degree, and that's okay. And we
And
can
that is
sit and prepare for
the
a
spring.
new birth of the spring when that happens, when it's actually that time. So
We did talk about that, right? Which is that, did we mention about the calendars? As in, if you think about it, like spring has been the beginning of the calendar for like centuries. And now we've kind of have this like mind shift of how, like, the calendar is no longer like starting in April, it starts in like January. And so we have like a different, instead of us to think of it like, oh, our New Year's resolutions should happen January 1st. It should really happen like April 1st, like or like the spring equinox. Um, if we're gonna be really honest, but let's not get into it. The fact is that better goal setting, thinking about, avoiding dread, knowing your why, actionable, measurable, realistic goals, and just giving yourself some grace. I think these are beautiful takeaway points. And with that, I thank you all today for joining us in the Magic of Metabolic Health podcast. Make a comment here or send us a message with any questions or anything questions you have about this episode, or even questions about being keto or carnivore. My name is Dr. Funmmy Aoyami, and this is Amelia Wood, and we are the Magic of Metabolic Health. Thank you for being a part of our village. Until next time.
Bye, everybody.
We're bringing healthy back. Them other bros don't know about the facts.